everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this video. Well, hello everyone, and it is so good to be with you once again. Today we are going to look at this remarkable picture. It was sent to me. It is from a British publication called The Sphere, 1913. It purports to depict right here, as you see, a chamber with hieroglyphs. And the chamber in the Sphinx is 14 feet wide by 60 feet long, with an additional chamber and sarcophagus here. We're going to really investigate this picture and the writing below. It is purportedly a discovery of Professor Reisner, and this really piqued my interest because Reisner was a top archaeologist. What's going on? This is crazy. We are going to investigate this. Firstly, some background into this. It's quite fascinating because, well, this is Reisner. And Reisner appeared at Giza around 1902, just a little bit after Flinders Petrie, the British archaeologist who was originally a pyramidologist, was investigating Giza. And Reisner was seen as the American version of Petrie because he had these new methods in archaeology, these exact new methods. And new ways of doing things, careful archaeology, no more using the jackhammer. And Reisner, he arrived on the scene with two others, rivals from Germany and Italy. A German called Burckhardt, that's Burckhardt, and also an Italian. Burckhardt would later in 1912, when the Titanic sank, he would discover this. Some say he smuggled it out of Egypt. He said it was just a piece of rock, and that arrived on the scene. That framed the Art Deco world in Germany. It inspired so many people. He also arrived at Giza with another guy called Schiaparelli, this Italian fellow, and they drew lots out of a hat, and they said, look, we can't be working on the same projects. Let's draw these lots. And so they divided Giza into three. And by the way, this is some other things discovered by Schiaparelli. This is the tomb of Ka, 18th dynasty. So you can see what an Egyptian lady from Upper Egypt, Thebes, that's down south, would have looked like. Look at those beautiful, almost Minoan. See, it's contemporary with the Minoans, almost Minoan spirals, but we see their inspiration possibly in Egypt. He found this, the tomb of Nefertari, as well. These guys were finding things left and right. And this is actually one of the guys who inspired modern archaeology along with Reisner. His name is Coldaway. He dug up Babylon. He seems to be feeding his cats. They seem to be sitting around a table or something. I don't know what's going on there. And also a guy called Dorpfeld. He found Ithaca in Greece. These guys founded modern archaeology. That's also from the tomb of Ka. And what happened was this. Burckhardt was given the pyramid of Khafre to excavate. Schiaparelli was given a cemetery to excavate at Giza, the North Cemetery. And Reisner was given the Menkaure Valley Temple. There was a guy called Maspero, who was the Zahi Hawass of the day, running the antiquities. He was a European living in Egypt, and he allowed these three to excavate at Giza to find things. And Reisner, the guy who purportedly found those secret chambers in the Sphinx, found this. Truly amazing. And this was the Valley Temple of Menkaure. And this is when they started to find that such a thing as a valley temple existed, and they started to realize what a pyramid complex constituted. And he found 4 of these so-called triads of Menkaure. And they're quite interesting. He's always with Hathor. Hathor seems to be his chosen goddess. Something very interesting here. So these are a cow's horns, but to me they also look like a stag's horns. Were there stags in Egypt at the time? And in fact, there were stags at the time because Egypt was a savanna, and it became a desert after this period. They say this temple was active for 300 years, then it was buried. The first intermediate period, a time of troubles. Robert Temple said in this time the Sphinx face was carved off, and this is one of the triads he found. That's another one of the triads he found. So you can see why they buried it. Maybe it was people that were already vandalizing the area. So the priest said, okay, bury that thing. More triads. That's his wife. Just fascinating. And that is the background. So now let us get on to what's going on here with this. And this is a higher resolution one here. Now, this is just amazing. So let's examine this. There seems to be a staircase, a circular staircase descending down into this chamber. Now, we know there is a hole in the Sphinx's head. That hole was filled in 1926 by a French archaeologist called Bézier. So just after all this was found, like a decade after, if this is real, and it's never been found since, if it's real, was it all filled in by this French archaeologist? And the excuse was he was preparing this for tourism. So here we have this chamber. And inside the chamber, there seems to be this kind of shrine here. There's writing on the top. That looks pretty Egyptian to me. The writing on the top like that. A sarcophagus. I've never seen a sarcophagus like that before. That temple door is a bit weird. It looks a bit fantasy to me. Let's zoom out and let's look down here. There's a spiral staircase descending to this other chamber, the main temple, filling the body of the Sphinx and connected by tunnels and various temples and tombs in various directions. And it's got these beautiful columns. I've never seen columns before like that, except maybe at Karnak in the south. They're also similar to the Djoser columns because they're nature-like. They look like trees, but they're not the same. And here we have these spiral staircases descending down to the south, down below, and another tomb below the Sphinx. Hollow pyramids supposed the tomb of Menes, the first king of Egypt. The first historical pharaoh of Upper and Lower Egypt. So, and then temple between the four paws of the Sphinx. We know about that. There is a temple there. But that's interesting. They've put the tomb of Menes here. So that means in 1912, this article is suggesting that the Sphinx is actually older than the pyramids because Menes' first tomb. And so we will say, like, Robert Schoch came up with that, but it looks like this is well, we know he didn't. This is actually a pretty old idea, but Robert Schoch's famous for it. But 1912, there you go. Some lost history there. So now we're going to read the writing. Diagrammatic view of the discoveries recently made of hidden temples within the Sphinx. Repeated reports are coming to this country from Egypt of the extreme interest which is being evoked by the remarkable discoveries now being made by Professor George Reisner, Egyptologist of Harvard University. He is unveiling a series of hidden temples within the natural rock of which the Sphinx is formed. The drawing given above is only approximate in its details, as the measured drawings now being made by the explorer are not yet available. The temples and stairways are, however, shown in their relative positions. Not only is the head of the Sphinx occupied by two chambers, one superimposed above the other, but the actual body of the Sphinx is also occupied by a larger pillar-lined temple with passages leading off in several directions. The actual tomb of Menes, the great but mysterious founder of remote Egypt, is also supposed to be within the Sphinx. The most remarkable discoveries may be looked for at any time. See notes on opposite page. And the notes on the opposite page, I will show you in the next video. Stay tuned. Quite interesting. This is just fascinating stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this. What do you make of it? This has never been found. Robert Temple has gone in there and he's had a look. He's never found anything like this. We know that there is that chamber here, and we know there is a chamber here, but there is apparently no connection between them. In fact, there may be two chambers here. There's an upper and lower down here. But this is all new. This is all weird. What do you make of this? This is weird. And the interesting thing is, people, if we look up, if we just look up Reisner, he's not even remotely known for anything related to the Sphinx, although he was digging up in the same location. I suppose you could say the Sphinx was more attached to the Khafre pyramid, so therefore it would have been more Burckhardt's area, and Burckhardt presumably found the Khafre triads as well. But if we look at his publications, basically, let's go to his published works: Amulets, first in early dynastic cemeteries, the Egyptian conception of immortality. So that's 1912. Excavations at Kerma, 1923. So it looks like he went home and then he came back around the 20s. So Kerma is down south. Harvard excavations at Samaria. And then Mycerinus, temples of the Third Dynasty of Egypt, 1931. So archaeologists, I have to say, they're much better at looking than they are at publishing. Many of the excavations at Giza were never published. Writing up is just not as fun as being there with a shovel, unfortunately. And then Giza Necropolis, and then Canoptics, 1967. So it's a while between publications, probably many papers. These are probably mainly books. That one in 1912, the Egyptian conception of immortality. Let's have a look. We can actually look at it. But yeah, it'd be so amazing to actually have these books. But they're so rare and they're out of print, and etc., etc. But there's actually nothing here about the Sphinx at all. Has it been hushed up? Thank you for watching.